One of these is water. Let's see. There we go. Hi. I'm internet legend and Eurovision finalist Jared Spool. Thank you, Eurovision. We watched it all last night on TV. We watched the semifinals. Romania was awful. But in a really great sort of way. The past 2 years, I've been learning how to give talks differently, and so I've started this process of drawing what I talk, and it's a little weird, but it seems to work, and so I ask you to bear with me on this. So we're going to talk about how we got here and how we're going to get there. In case you're not clear, that's there. And I apologize right now for my handwriting. The font I've chosen today is sans neatness. If anything, this talk is just going to be proof that the only thing I can draw is blood. So, the world of UX has made it here. And here is interesting, right? I think if you were to sum up here in 2 words, it would be basically experience delivery. And I choose these 2 words intentionally. First, to talk to Anna's point, users is a fine word. Just going to point that out. It's fine. If it's one thing that UX people like to do, it's to argue over words. But UX is a fine word. Of course, you should humanize it as much as possible. If you're talking about systems for doctors, then say doctors. If you're talking about systems for patients, say patients. But when you try to talk about systems for everyone, you could say people, but sometimes the systems aren't for all the people, so there's a group of people, so why not call them users? So that's my take on that. The other thing is, I think we should start a drinking game anytime someone mentions design thinking. I don't have anything particularly. It took me a long time to get my head around design thinking, because for the longest time I'd ask people, so what is design thinking? And they'd say, oh, well, it's a sort of multidisciplinary end-to-end design process where you involve everyone and to get in a room and put stickies on a wall. And I said, that's just design. Do we just add thinking to things now? Is that just it? Design thinking, development thinking, thinking. That's my new thing. I'm gonna have thinking. It's got 5 hexagons. And the thing about design thinking is it seems to always start with empathize. That's what it starts with. But then it stops 1/5 of the way in. We can only have empathy for 1/5 of the process. Once we start defining, we have to stop empathizing. But no, it took me a long time to get my head around it, and then I finally got my head around it, and I realized it's basically it's basically just something we say to get people in a room. And it, we've tried lots of things. This one got written up in the Harvard Business Review, so it gets more people in the room. And so okay, we'll do that. But what it reminds me of, there's a old Eastern European folk tale about this traveler who's traveling from one old Eastern European village to another old Eastern European village. This was in the time before they invented horses. And the traveler, per tradition, when it gets to the next village, would bang on people's doors, and when they would answer, would ask them for food scraps or bedding for the night, which is traditionally you would offer that to someone because it was back when Eastern Europe was nice to each other. And so the traveler would do this, but he gets this one village, and the first person says, "I'm sorry, I don't have any food scraps for you because we have a drought, and we just don't have anything to spare." He said, "Okay, no problem." Goes to the next house, bangs on the door, gets the same answer. Gets this a few times, gets the message, ends up going into the center of the village where there's a lovely little center square, and sets up camp there and pulls out of his backpack a pot and some implements for cooking, and puts out, starts to make a fire, and then reaches in his bag and pulls out a stone, puts it in the pot, starts stirring this pot with the stone in it. And a villager comes over, and more villagers start to come over, and they're curious what this dude is doing in the middle of their square with a pot, and empty pot and a stone. And he says, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm making stone soup." And one of the villagers says, "Well, what does that taste like?" He says, "Well, it tastes much better if you have some water." And someone who's just up for the experiment says, "Well, I got a little water in the well. I'll go grab it. Let's try that." And goes and does that, and puts the water in, keeps stirring it. "Is it going to be good?" He says, "Well, it'd be better if we had some carrots." So someone else says, "We'll get some carrots." And so somebody gets carrots. You know where this is going, right? Somebody else gets some meat and some potatoes, and they put the whole thing together, and they have a lovely feast. Everybody eats. It's the best meal anybody's had in a really long time. And at the end of the meal, the villager says, "You know what? This has been fantastic. I thank you for your wonderful hospitality. Thank you for all contributing your little pieces of things. It was really wonderful to do this. And as my thanks to you, I'm going to leave you this stone. And you, as a village, anytime you're feeling like it, you're feeling like you're just running out of stuff, you can make stone soup too." And he packs up his stuff, and he heads out of the village to the next village. And as he's walking out, he reaches down and he picks up another stone and he puts it in his backpack. And he continues on. And this is what makes me think of design thinking. Now, people think that the moral of that story is that, of course, if you get everybody to work together, you can do things you couldn't do on your own. And that's all true, and that's fine, but that's not the point. To me, the point is, and this is the point of design thinking, at no point can we, as the people who are listening to this story, as the people who might be telling this story, no point can we actually believe that that stone makes soup. Because if we believe the stone makes soup, the traveler dies. Because at some point, he's going to be out in the middle of nowhere. He's going to try and make stone soup, and it ain't going to work. Design thinking is the damn stone. It doesn't make soup. It's the villagers that make soup. When we hold a design thinking workshop, if we want it to succeed, we should invite villagers. Let them make the soup. And that's where we are. We're here. We're in a place where we have to resort to tricks to get people to make the damn soup. And it's tiring. Andy was right. There's the first Andy, not the second Andy. The upper Andy. That's lower Andy. That's upper Andy. There is this resonance now in the field that we've sort of gotten to this place where we're stuck. This here. And we should celebrate the journey we've been on. We've done amazing things. I mean, I started in this business in 1977. I've been doing this for 45 years. And when I started, my first project was building a word processor. This was 5 years before Microsoft Word. So, no, I'm sorry, 7 years before Microsoft Word. So we were building word processors in a world where nobody knew how to build word processors. We didn't know how to do this. And the idea that you would use this thing, in order to learn how to use our word processor, you had to go away to a special school for 2 weeks of training. In the first week, you learned how to open a file, save a file, print a file, and change the ribbon on the printer. The second week was advanced. You got to learn bold and italics. And that's what the UX was back in those days. And now, I've got rich text editing built into design systems that just sort of show up in any sort of field, and I can bold and italicize to my heart's content, and we don't have to send people away for 2 weeks to do that. And so we have had some great progress here. And some of that progress has come about because of some amazing work. Folks at Apple, at Netflix would be a high contender on my list. For reasons I'll explain, I would put Uber here and Airbnb. And what these folks did, what these people did was they made design, the type of things we do every day, completely mainstream. People who have never met anybody in the computing field can use these things without going away to school for 2 weeks to learn how to use them. And this is remarkable. This is where we're at. And they have magical powers. I mean, Apple put supercomputers in everyone's pocket. My father, who passed away a couple of years ago, died with a supercomputer in his pocket. I never thought that I would see him use a computer. When I was learning how to use a computer, he treated it as this sort of foreign magical thing. And even years later, when his office got computers, he was one of these lawyers, corporate lawyer, and there was probably a 6 or 7 year period right before he retired, where he would, if you sent him an email, his secretary would print out the email for him. She would go into his email and print all his emails and bring them in on paper. And if he wanted to send you a reply, he would write it on the paper and give it back to her. And so you'd send him an email and you get a reply from her. And this is how I communicated with my dad. And my favorite thing was he got himself on some lists where people would send him joke emails because he was a dad, and he would send them these joke emails, and he would, instead of forwarding the email, he would print it out and ask the secretary to send it to me in an envelope. But then he got an iPhone. And he was doing stuff on the iPhone. This is the magic of Apple. This is the experience that was delivered, right? It was the ability for him to do this. And Netflix allows us to now, it's because of Netflix that we can watch pretty much any type of entertainment, including Eurovision, from anywhere we want, on demand. I just said, I want to watch Eurovision, and I figured out how to connect my phone to my hotel TV, and last night we watched Eurovision. Estonia was okay. And though they were speaking in Spanish, I don't know why. They were singing in Spanish. I think Miss Jacobs is going to do very well. I just want to say that. I hope she wins. Though I could see Ukraine getting the sentimental vote. Though Ukrainian rap was a little weird. But then all of Eurovision is a little weird, that's for sure. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. This is why I come to Europe. So Netflix allows us to see this in our homes, right? And it's because of Netflix, because designers and UX people at Netflix made it clear that if we're going to do this, we have to do it so anyone can use it. And that became that became the way we delivered the experience. And Uber's amazing, right? Because Uber, you take out your device and you press a couple buttons and a car appears out of nowhere. This is Harry Potter level magic. And Airbnb, take out your device, click a couple buttons, and you too can stay in a stranger's home without asking permission. Without banging on a door and begging for food scraps. Or having to carry a stone in your backpack, right? All of these things are happening because we got here. None of this I could have imagined when I started in my work. And so this is just amazing. So experience delivery is where we are. But here's the thing. This delivery word, I mean, we have to deliver. We have to ship things, right? That's always been the thing, right? We can have great ideas. I for years and years and years, I went to research conferences where people would demo great technology ideas, but none of it actually made it out of the lab. What made these things different is that they all shipped. They all delivered. And not only did they deliver once, they kept delivering, and they kept improving, and they kept making it better. And that's what we're talking about. But here's the thing. This delivery, this is an obstacle for getting to there. And I don't mean we have to stop shipping. What I mean is we have to think about shipping. We have to really think about what we're shipping. Let's take, for example, a product roadmap. Well, you can think of a product roadmap as basically a bunch of, it's basically a list, a timeline, sort of both, right? And there's what we're working on now, there's what we're going to work on next, and then there's what we're going to do later. And maybe we think of it as, you know, now is our +0 release. Next is +1. After that, those are the later things. And typical product roadmaps in organizations are, in essence, just a schedule of features, right? We're going to ship this, we're shipping this feature now, and this feature, and these two features, whatever they are. And next up, after we get those done, we're going to deliver these two features, and this feature, and these two features. And we just keep doing that, just adding features to our list. Feature, 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 blockchain. Feature, feature. I mean, you always have to have blockchain on your roadmap. Nobody knows why, but you have to have it. And so, so we have all these features. But this is the problem, right? This is what's made it the feature factory that the Andy the Elder talked about this morning, is that when we see this list of, we have these features that we do, but then we have all these features we have to do after that, and then someday we'll do blockchain. This is what creates that sort of feature factory mentality. We're always thinking about what we have to do next. What do we have to do next? And of course, things slip, and so we push things down, and then somebody walks in and says, I have a big bag of money if you'll implement data export. What is data export? Export the data. Customer wants data export. They're going to give us a big bag of money. We need the big bag of money. Do the data export. Okay, we'll add it to the list. Oh, well, we move this down here. We take this one, we put it over here. We can always knock blockchain down. That's sort of and we'll just do data export here. And this is the problem, right? Is that we're just managing these features. The problem is that features are basically outputs. This is what Andy the Younger was talking about. He was talking about how outputs, and so you can think of an output as just basically something that we deliver, that we put something into the world. Okay. But what we really want to be thinking about are outcomes. Right? An outcome is a change in the world because of what we delivered, ideally. I mean, things are going to change in the world no matter what, but if it had nothing to do with what we delivered, we really can't claim that it's our outcome. And if we deliver something and it doesn't change anything in the world, we didn't do anything. Right? We just put out a thing, and, the opposite of this is crickets. And so what we want are outcomes. And we don't just want business outcomes like increasing retention by 15% or driving income, additional income in Latin America. What we want are what we call UX outcomes. And UX outcomes answer a question, right? The question is, if we do a great job on whatever it is we're working on, how will we improve someone's life? That's it. That's a UX outcome. This is focusing on the experience, right? Focusing on the experience. We want a UX outcome. If we do a great job, how will we improve someone's life? We have to be able to answer this question. Doesn't matter whether we're working on a whole new product or we're working on just a simple addition to a dialog box. We're just fixing a bug in the way the phone number field works. If we can't get an answer, if we do a great job on fixing that bug in the phone number field, how do we improve someone's life? If we don't know the answer to that, why are we working on this? why is that a thing? And so this is the question. If we do a great job, how will we improve someone's life? And so the thing about the roadmap is that that's not built into the roadmap at all. It's not there. We have all these features, but we don't know why any of these things or how any of these things will improve someone's life, especially blockchain. So, we can think of it this way. How do we figure out what the outcome is? So we can think of our UX outcome as an improvement. If we do a great job, how do we improve someone's life? But when we're focused on features, what we're focused on is some sort of solution. Right? These are the features, the capabilities. We can call those a solution. And right now, where's my other card? Here it is. Right here, we are very solution focused. We invest everything on the solution, right? That was that diagram that Andy the earlier showed, right? Where the little tiny diamond and the slightly bigger diamond and then the massively large diamond and then the somewhat slightly smaller diamond, right? This massively tall diamond here, this here, that's all solution work. And I guess they're not diamonds, they're triangles. Damn. It's not the double diamond, it's the quadruple triangle. Anyways, we're focused on the solution. And so this is where we spend our time. And the idea is, if we do a good job on this, we're going to get an outcome. But we actually don't know what outcome we're going to get. We just sort of put it into the world and see what sticks, right? This is the sort of A/B testing mentality of design. We'll just change a lot of things, do a lot of A/B tests, see which one gets 0.0001% higher in some sort of metric that actually doesn't correlate to actual use, and then we'll choose that one, put that up, and we'll create this Frankenstein worth of experience that's going to get us, well, basically booking.com. And so So this is the problem, right? But here's the reality. What we really need to understand the improvement is to understand the experience, right? And the way you understand the experience is you start observing it. Yogi Berra, it occurs to me you might not know who he was. Yogi Berra was a baseball coach, but it turns out that that's not an important fact. What's the important fact is Yogi Berra was an incredibly wise man who said these things that the masses are still pondering. One of which things that Yogi Berra said was, you can observe a lot just by watching. Wisdom. He also said that when you come to the fork in the road, you should take it. I'm still working on that one. He also said, people don't go there anymore, it's too popular. So, each of these this is a timeline. I know you can't tell this. I'm going to have to explain it. This is a timeline. Each of these vertical sort of dotted thingies is a milestone that a user makes in trying to get something done. So they're trying to do something in their life. And we can measure that on a scale of extreme frustration to extreme delight. I was so excited to see a chart like this in Kimberly's talk, except she had Mickeys, which of course you would have if you work for Disney. And what we can do is we can say, okay, well, this beginning part is delightful, and then that part's a bit frustrating, and then it got a little delightful here, and then when we went and did this, oh my gosh, that was really frustrating, and then it got better, and then it just keeps going, right? And so we watch somebody, we watch a person, a people, and we see this trend, and then we watch another people, and we see it happened basically the same way, and we start to watch a whole bunch of people, and soon we notice that there are patterns, that people seem to get frustrated here, people seem to get frustrated here. Now, these are the things. I don't know what they are. They're, entering phone numbers, or they're putting in credit card information, or whatever it is that's frustrating them. That's the thing. That's the thing that happens at that moment. And we can ask the question here, what makes that frustrating? Really get to know that. And that we can refer to as the current experience. And what's amazing to me is how many people who deliver UX things all the time who have no idea what the current experience is for the things they deliver. They deliver something because someone told them to build it, because we're in the feature factory. It came up on the roadmap. We're supposed to work on it now. That's what we're building. Well, why are we building this? Shush, just do it. Okay, so we actually don't know what the current experience is. So we don't know what's frustrating about it. We don't know if what we're doing is adding to that frustration or removing that frustration. We don't know any of these things. And this is the problem. Now, if we want to understand what our outcome is, we need to understand what the experience is, because then we can just look and say, well, what if we made it delightful all the way across? What if we just made it delightful? What would it take to make this delightful, to bring this frustration up and make this delightful? And this aspirational experience becomes our UX outcome. Now, one last piece. We can ask the question, well, why can't our peoples get the outcome without us having to build something? What's preventing them from doing that? And it turns out that's a really important question to ask. Because if we ask that question, we come up with a list of problems to solve. The problems are the things that are preventing our users, our peoples, from getting to that outcome on their own. And we inform the problems by understanding the experience. And then it turns out that once you have a really good understanding of the problems, it's really easy to come up with solutions. I have never met a team who, if they had a solid shared understanding of what the problems of the users really were, they couldn't generate a dozen viable solutions in under an hour and then pick one and just start rolling with it and see if it works. And how would they know it works? Because they get the outcome. Because they see the change in the world. Now, occasionally, we're going to ship something that isn't going to get that outcome. And that's just going to inform our understanding of the problem even more. When we talk about iteration, this is iteration. Trust me, that says iteration. Let me try that again. That wasn't better. But here's the problem. We don't do any of this because we focus all of our time on the solution. We focus all of our time on delivering the solution. Delivering the solution just gets us here. It doesn't get us to the outcome. You really want to create OKRs that are meaningful? Create OKRs where the objective is the outcome. You don't get credit for this project until you've actually made the change in the world. That's what we need to do. This is the world of design. This is the world of this giant third triangle. We over-index on design. We under-index on this part. This is user research. We completely underinvest in user research. Dramatically underinvest in user research. And Andy the Bearded showed us this. Right? Yeah, I got it right. That was the right Andy. This is this world. This is where we need to go. This is what we need to do to get beyond the delivery obstacle. We need to understand because no one else is going to do this. I am going to tell you right now, from this day on, your job has changed. This is not an option. Your job is to start in making sure your organization, whatever it takes, invests more in understanding the current experience and the problems to solve. I don't know how you're going to do it. That's your job. But this is what you have to do. Because we should no longer accept the idea that we work on solutions without understanding the problems. We have to start making sure we do this. There are lots of ways to understand the problems. One is to go watch people. That's a great way. But you can also go talk to support, because turns out support gets paid to listen to people's problems all day. You can go talk to sales, because sales gets paid to try to figure out how to sell somebody something even though the thing has problems. And those people will be able to inform you greatly about all this. There's something more. Something more about how we're going to get to there. Because what we can do with this roadmap is we can make sure that everything on the roadmap is framed either as an outcome or a problem to solve. We can start with outcomes. We can start by looking at things that are on the roadmap and saying, if we did a great job on this thing, what problem would it solve? How would it make someone's life better? Right? If we do a great job. So we can start and substitute out the feature and just start referring to it by the outcome. Maybe these two things have the same outcome. And this one is an outcome. And we can do that. We can just substitute outcomes. Maybe this and this one, even though they're in different releases, will end up having the same outcome. So, and blockchain will never have a good outcome. And I should mention I'm not the biggest fan of blockchain. So it's just a solution looking for a problem. Blockchain is the future, always has been, always will be. But for the stuff we're going to do next, we actually need to know the problems. Right? So we can't just stop at the outcomes. We have to know why people don't have that right now. So for the things in the next release, we refer to them by the problem we're solving. That's the language there. And then the thing we're working on, we should know what the problem is and the solution. And like I said, your OKR should be the outcome. So that's the trick. So this is all about research. It's all about outcomes, right? All of this is about getting to understand the problem better. I could stop there, but I got 9 minutes and 18 seconds left, so I'm not going to. Instead, I want to talk about consent. When we do something like A/B tests, or maybe we use some tool that captures the user's session and plays it back in a video, we are experimenting on people without their consent. We did not ask permission to do that. It's sort of like going into the cafe and just hovering behind people as they use their phone or work at their laptop. I'm sorry, I'm just doing a study. Don't mind me. We don't ask consent. And to me, as Kat talked about, I would put this in the category of unethical. Those session recording tools, they are unethical. But it's worse than that, because a lot of folks are out there doing things like unmoderated usability testing, where people are being paid to do usability tests for us in their free time. If you use a tool like that, here's what I highly recommend you do. Sign up to be a participant in their pool. Actually go through the process. And what you'll find out is that you'll quickly be moved into a community of other people who take usability tests, who've made a profession of usability testing, who basically swap various hints and tricks on how to take as many tests as you can to earn as much as you can. How to pass through screeners, pretending you qualify, so that the people let you in so that they will pay you. In fact, how to set up multiple accounts so you can do the same study multiple times once you've figured out what the screener is that you have to get through. There's a whole profession of people who are basically the Uber drivers of usability testing. They are making a living off of this. Now, I don't fault them for wanting to make a living off of this. This is an admirable way to game the system. But I don't believe we thought that was an industry we were creating. And part of this is because we have screwed up consent. Now, back in the early 80s, I had the opportunity to work in the very first usability lab. By the way, it's a usability test, not a user test. If I do anything while I am still on this planet, I will get people to stop using the phrase user test. We are not testing the user, we are testing the design. You've heard that sentence before. Maybe you've said that sentence before. I have said that sentence about 1,000 times in my life because I was there when we wrote the sentence. I was there during one of the very first usability tests when we had a participant in our study break down into tears. The software was so miserable to use that she started to cry. And I'm sorry you find that funny, because it wasn't. The thing was that she was an employee at the company that made the software. We put her in a situation where she thought her inability to use the software was going to get her fired. And so we wrote the phrase. And we repeat the phrase every time. We're not testing you. We're testing the design. But here's the thing. We took a video of that session. And then because we needed the developers and the product managers and all the people to change that design, we showed that video a lot. And we had her consent. I was there when we wrote the consent form. We basically said, we get all the power. We are the ones who get to decide what happens with this video. You don't. That's what we signed, we let her sign away. And I have come to believe that this is one of the root causes of our issues today. We have become exploitive and extractive. We have become colonialist. We need to decolonize our work. I can't believe I'm talking about this in Sweden. Sweden, the heart of democratic socialism. And where I come from, people think democratic socialism is a disease. They're afraid they're going to catch it. They're more afraid of that than COVID. But here we are, talking about the rights of people. What we should be doing, industry-wide, is training everyone to make sure that nobody signs a consent form unless they have the power of what it is. Certainly, we shouldn't ask for consent until after they know what it is the session is going to be like. And even then, if we are using that information to then create designs, and those designs make somebody a lot of money, some of that should go to them and not just some sort of token Amazon gift card, but something substantive. There's another question, another outcome question. If we do a great job, who gets harmed? And how? We need to be asking this question too. We need to be asking the question, because this is an outcome. What is happening because we love Amazon so much that workers are working in facilities that are completely harmful to them? Was that our intent? Was that the designer's intent? How would we make sure that we don't harm anyone, any of the peoples who are important to this? This is what it's going to take. Now, for blockchain, yes. I was looking for my card and now I've lost it. Here it is. That was a dramatic moment. This is what it's going to take to get there. Where we need to go is we really do need to consider both types of outcomes in everything we do. We need to understand how everything we do improves somebody's life and how everything we do may harm somebody's life. And we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to maximize the improvement and minimize the harm. And now there's a big red zero here, and I'm going to say thank you very much for encouraging my behavior.